Hello everyone, I'm McGregor, your host for today, and welcome to another episode of the Stardom TI official podcast. If you're listening on Spotify and are not yet following the podcast, make sure to follow to get notified of future episodes. If you're on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe and turn the notification bell on to be notified of new episodes and other videos. We have a few announcements today, mainly regarding novels, followed by an update on future plans for the podcast going forward. Without further ado, let's get straight into the headlines. Witness the Battle of Auckland and the beginning of Dylan Chander's new life as Supreme Commander of the Liberation in Chapter 3 of Frenquin, An Unlikely Hero, out now for free on Wattpad. Also, stay tuned for further details regarding new chapters of Frenquin, An Unlikely Hero as the story begins to ramp up over the next 3 months of Dylan's life until the fateful encounter during the Battle of Townsville that will change everything. Also today, the fourth and final part of Knuckles, Jock of Mobotropolis High, the first story of Sonic Stories of the Revolution, is now available on Wattpad. Later in this episode, I'll be discussing some business updates, and this will include details on the distribution strategy for Sonic Stories of the Revolution for future stories. Also stay tuned for further details regarding Sonic Revolution as well, as the story begins to ramp up from Chapter 4 onwards, leading up to the next major turning point and the beginning of the next major act, Amy's Trauma, which will include a new alternate cover which will be available for download along with the standard cover on Patreon. The standard cover will be free to download for all, while the Amy's Trauma cover will be an exclusive download for podcast supporter members on Patreon. Okay, so I'm already wearing myself pretty thin, I'd say, with working on this podcast while also writing 3 novels at once with Sonic Revolution, Frenquin, An Unlikely Hero, and Bloons Tower Defense 6, Rise of Gwendolyn, in addition to Sonic Stories of the Revolution. But I'm happy to announce that another brand new novel will be coming soon. I'm not going to go into the details just yet, except that this novel will have a slower chapter release cycle than Sonic Revolution and Frenquin, An Unlikely Hero, with 1 chapter likely to release every month or 2, as opposed to 2 chapters a month with Sonic Revolution and Frenquin, An Unlikely Hero. So stay tuned for further details on that one in the coming weeks. Okay, so to finish off the episode for today, I thought I'd give a few updates on my plans for the future of the podcast and for Stardom TI as a whole. So, this business, especially the novel writing, has long been an aspiration of mine. I'm only 21 years old, so it's been maybe 6 years or so since I first started thinking about Stardom TI. About starting it, which I had under the name of Canmo Corporation at the time. I went into the naming of the business in the first episode of this podcast, so feel free to check out that first episode if you want to know more. The novel writing, however, the aspiration to be an author has actually been around since my earliest school years, as I was once an avid reader and even at an early age, I wanted to write. I didn't care about becoming an astronaut or a fireman or a doctor or police officer. I just wanted to write. And it's the one thing that I've always found myself to have a real knack for, due to my creativity. So, once I conceived the idea for Sonic Revolution, I thought, why not merge my writing aspirations with this business plan? Or, basically, rather than self-publishing by myself, start a business to serve as an avenue for traditional publishing down the road. It's a quite innovative idea I came up with in order to ensure that I could eventually pursue traditional publishing, but without a publisher making substantial changes to the story I wanted to tell for the sake of market appeal, because I own the publisher. So it's basically a form of end-to-end control over the finished product, similar to what you see companies like Apple doing. I write the book, and I'm also the one deciding what should be published. Correlates conveniently. Obviously, I soon realised that Sonic Revolution would have to be a free novel, of course, due to copyright law. So I began thinking about something original that I could make in order to actually put out a product that could have a chance at being profitable. This idea is what would become Frenquin. So I had my ideas and kept playing around with them to see what would stick and what wouldn't on both sides. And what's being published now is the final version of those ideas. So this has been in the pipeline for years, of course. There was a couple things that consistently stopped me or held me back from getting everything ready. So the first was employment and trying to get a job to make money. The second was suffering mental health, which led to poor motivation to get anything done. Both of these in tandem are the main reason that it's taken so long to get things sorted. Right now, I'm unemployed on government unemployment benefits, which gives me ample time to get things off the ground while I'm looking for a job. My mental health has also had some improvements, meaning I have the motivation to get this off the ground. I'm looking for a job currently, ideally a part-time or casual job with not much more than 20 hours a week. This is to ensure that work does not hamper or halt my progress with writing my novels or running this business. There are other reasons for this hesitancy to get another full-time job. Mainly a decline in physical health, such as not even going to go into that, and a mental inability to work the sort of fast-paced and physically demanding jobs I've done before. Now, I've rambled on for a bit about my personal situation and the origins of the business and novels. So now I'll talk about the future, or at least my plans for the future of Stardom TI. I'll start with this podcast. Due to some current car troubles, my plans to access a public recording studio have been hampered temporarily, but I will keep you all informed about that. I've also got some ideas on the table for things to do on this podcast. Some of these are made more difficult to implement due to financial reasons, which is the reason I'm looking for a job as well, to put some more money into Stardom TI as capital to get some of these ideas going. My first idea is for a talk show segment with guests and all. Obviously, this would require time and planning, and possibly money as well. As for the topics of this talk show, it would most likely be gaming related, which ties into the next idea. This is to revive the gaming news segment with some actual weight behind it. I've put the gaming news segment on the back burner for now, as I'm not too experienced in journalism, and my own knowledge and ability to find and cover news objectively is pretty poor as well, as I have no real experience with gaming outside of Sonic the Hedgehog and Nintendo first-party games. Although the recent Mortal Kombat 1 announcement definitely piqued my interest. So I'm looking for a friend or someone who has more experience with gaming and the workings of the industry to serve as a journalist before I bring this segment back. I did go into this last episode, but I just thought I'd reiterate that one. Okay, another idea I have, which I'm currently pursuing, is regarding the bonus episodes. Okay, I will try and continue the current Sonic Revolution audiobook, which I'm going to make available for free, rather than it being locked behind the podcast subscription or Patreon. But I'm currently looking for voice actors to do a much more ambitious audiobook offering of the novels recorded in the public studio. These audiobooks will be part of the subscription and Patreon offering, as they will take time and planning to get ready. Of course, the Spotify podcast subscription and the adjacent podcast supporter tier on Patreon will be priced at $5 Australian or local equivalent, with additional perks. I'll soon be finding a way to ensure that Spotify subscribers will receive the additional perks of the Patreon tier, including the supporter role on our Discord server and other smaller benefits that can't be made available directly through Spotify. This will most likely be done by sending us an email with your Spotify subscription receipt for verification, but I will keep, just stay tuned for information on that one. Okay, speaking of Patreon, there will also be further tiers coming in the pipeline as our offerings grow. This will include the Podcast Supporter Plus tier on Patreon, which will include all the benefits of the Podcast Supporter base tier, with additional bonus content for a slightly higher pledge. There will also be ambassador tiers further down the line as well, but stay tuned for all of that. I mentioned some news on the distribution strategy for Sonic Stories of the Revolution as well. So all future short stories for Sonic Stories of the Revolution will be on Patreon for 1 week early access for all patrons, before being made available for free to the public on Wattpad. So this does not include Knuckles' Jock of Mobotropolis High. This will be all future short stories for Stories of the Revolution. Okay, so to finish off with the novels. So for the time being, our novels will be available on Wattpad to be released on a chapter-by-chapter basis. Once completed, each novel will then be published to ebook marketplaces such as the Google Play Store, Amazon Kindle, and Apple Books. Sonic Revolution and other fanfictions will of course be free forever, but original novels such as the Frenquin series will be paid products. Frenquin, an Unlikely Hero, will likely be permanently free as an introduction to the series. Future original novels will be free on Wattpad until such a time as we are accepted into their creator program to monetize these through the paid stories program. So stay tuned for more information on the novels as well. So, that's all for today's episode of the Stardom TI official podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow the podcast, and if you're on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to the Stardom TI official YouTube channel. In both cases, I'd just like to say, any help from all of you loyal listeners will come in handy, either via the Spotify podcast subscription or by pledging to the Stardom TI Fan Club Patreon. All of these proceeds will go towards making sure this podcast and Stardom TI products can be the best they can be for all of you. Also, feel free to join the Stardom TI Fan Club Discord server and check out our novel offerings for free on Wattpad now. All links will be in the description or bio. That's all for today. This has been Casey McGregor for the Stardom TI official podcast, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.